they're not even they're not teaching Einstein even now in school, man. I mean, they're still teaching Newton. That's how outdated we are, right? Byju's is essentially taking a flawed educational system. The educational system that you and I went through is preparing us to be factory workers and bureaucrats, right? I mean, they want us to be punctual, they want us to be memorizing good things and be obedient, right? Our education system is about obedience and about punctuality and ability to churn out, right? Byju's is building tech for the flawed educational system, right? It comes down to, we've been put on a race, right? Without us knowing that we are in a race. I mean, if you really want to be successful, you want to not run a race, right?
It's a marathon.
You want to just be. I mean, you want to drive yourself. You don't want to be thrown into a race that you're not in, right? And that race today seems to be all about money. I was sitting on the idea to start, right? This is lockdown 2020. March, April, I was sure that I wanted to start now because deglobalization was happening because of COVID. I would be stupid if I didn't start, right? But I was also, thinking, should I start now? Paisa, all that. And then Narendra Modi talked about Atmanirbhar Bharat. So on within a week, he released 2 hashtags, Atmanirbhar Bharat and Vocal for Local, both of which were exactly what I was doing with Esamudaay. So I said, okay, boss bol raha hai to karenge abhi. Mr. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, aka Mahatma Gandhi. So I mean, there are many flaws in the human being, which I think is, which is part of the allure for me. I mean, many flaws. But primarily, I think to be that self-assured, to walk around in a kacha and go to England and talk his thing and be in his own zone, doing his own thing for years and years and years, right? I mean, 1909 till 1947, our man did the same thing day in, day out, right? And didn't get phased out. And he had a vision, right? I mean, 38 years, he just did that, right? I mean, and he achieved, for maybe not fully his success, but yeah, the tenacity of the dude is just amazing, right? I mean,
So hi Anup.
Hey Sarvana, how are you?
Thank you for being very kind and being the first lucky person of my podcast.
You got me back to Koramangala after many years. So, as in, I used to come here daily. My office is down the road here near Jyoti Niwas.
Yeah.
I don't come here often now. I quit in 2019 before COVID. So I come here for meetings. So I'm always happy to come to Jyoti Niwas side. I mean, because this is where...
Yes, food street is there. You have a cuisine to try out.
My startup grew here. It grew to a point where it got sold here in Koramangala.
Oh, really?
In Jyoti Niwas. Just across Jyoti Niwas, you've got the old Wipro building. Which is where... that's Fintelix Solutions?
Yes.
Yeah, so I founded Fintelix Solutions.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, let's talk about your early days, much before FinTech. So, how did you start your career? I want to know about it.
Always in FinTech. It was not called FinTech back then. So, I got recruited by a company called Index Computing. It was a small startup in Bangalore. Set up by ANZ Bank. It had about 100 people, all smart engineers working in Bangalore for ANZ Bank, which is an Australian bank. I got recruited by them from campus, and they taught me banking and technology.
Okay.
I'm a mechanical engineer who didn't know how to code.
Exactly. That was my question. You're from REC, right?
REC Suratkar, yeah.
REC Karnataka.
Karnataka, yeah.
So how do you end up in FinTech?
They recruited me. I mean, I was a mechanical engineer, and in '96 when I graduated, there was a shortage of computer programmers. So in '95, my senior batch, only computer science, electronics, and electrical people were allowed to sit for IT jobs. In '96, that was opened up. Everybody was allowed to sit for placement in IT jobs, which is the standard now. And we were the first batch that got that opportunity. I got an offer from these guys, and they selected people using aptitude tests back then, purely on aptitude tests, and so you got placed in a company that was a bank doing tech. and they taught me everything.
From there, you made your own fintech company.
Yeah, so worked for 2 years. I worked with the bank that recruited me, and then I guess I was good at what I did, and so a bank in Poland asked me to come over to Poland they headhunted me. And it was a contract that they gave me, and it was a new world. I mean, I was in Australia at that time, and then I got invited to go to Poland. I said, "Yeah, man. I mean, let's travel. I mean, it's the time to." When
That's out of college, just 2 years out.
2 years out of college, yeah. Wow. So I went to Poland. It was a beautiful time in Poland. 3 years. I was let's say the only Indian, more or less the only Indian in town. Yeah, small town called Byju, and I kind of became. I mean, I was the only guy who was setting up, who knew what he was doing. I guess because I had worked with the ANZ Bank, and this was a small bank, hiring a young guy, full of energy. So I set up that entire bank. Then in 2000, we set up. I made some really good friendships with the senior management there, and they trusted me. And we set up an e-bank there. We launched a new brand internet bank it was called.
So you are a product manager of that?
I was everything. I mean, there was back in those days we never put titles. I mean, it was Anup, and Anup was given a challenge. He had to figure it out.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. So fintech, from mechanical engineering to fintech. So what exactly was your core? The core is to leadership, managing team, or core is on technical side, like working on programming. So what was your core?
So I feel, this is back then and even today, I'm a good problem solver, right? So, and I like to solve big problems. If I'm given a challenge, I can put together things, and you can call me an alchemist pretty much. Give me a challenge and it'll get done, right? A big enough challenge, if it is there, it gets done. So that's my strength. It requires all kinds of different things. Entrepreneurship comes close to that, right?
Yes. Entrepreneurship is all about
about that. Yeah.
Take a challenge, solve it, and try to make useful for someone and get benefit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. So since you said you are a problem solver, what is the biggest challenge that you have faced in your career, and how did you solve it? How did you resolve it? I'm
going to tell you past. I don't put too much emphasis on the past, because past is past. You can't live in the past. So if you think too highly about your past achievements, you typically
cannot
be like Sehwag is the
yes.
Right. So so in the past, I think as a 24-year-old, I was living in Australia. And ANZ Bank had sent me to Australia. I was learning, I was setting up things there. I got recruited into Poland in the middle of winter. I landed up in a country where they didn't speak English, right? And from there for 3 years, I lived in that place. I made so many friendships. Learned a little of their language. They learned a lot of English, right? Thanks to me. So, and we had common connects, went out, created a great, sort of a friend circle there. And transformed the bank. The bank, when I first went there, was a small little bank serving old people. It was set up like a cooperative bank back in the 60s, 50s, during the communist regime. And by the time I reached there, it was a bank serving. It had 35 branches all over Poland, and it was serving old. There was a certain community, and most of their customers were old people. And the management wanted to become a digital. The word digital didn't exist back then. They wanted to become a new age bank, tech-enabled bank. So what was number 16 in the country? It's a small country, 16. By the time I left in 3 years, the bank was number 4. It got acquired by Nordea Bank, which is a large European bank. So the management made money, and that journey itself, I think, was the. And when I went there, I was just a software engineer who had worked for 2.5 years in a tech kind of a job. I was in a big corporate, right, ANZ Bank. And by the time I left, I had single-handedly done the whole transformation. And I went through a personal journey as well. I mean, living in a country by yourself and not knowing the language.
So
and
that is your biggest challenge.
So far, right? So far, right? But now I think I've taken on a much bigger challenge, which is not solved yet. Right? So
Esamudaay, yeah.
Esamudaay,
Yeah. So that we will get to it in a bit. So this question I want to ask later towards the podcast, but since we are communicating about your personal career, what your challenges, what you're facing, what is that one thing you think youngsters or entrepreneurs who want to become an entrepreneur have to have as a core? Either it could be a skill set or a mindset. What is that they have to possess in order to be a successful entrepreneur or a successful leader?
I think self-belief and purpose. I mean, if you are guided by your own inspiration, so the thing is why you do certain things. I mean, how you behave, what you chase, is driven by something that is instinct that you develop inside, which is the purpose, right? Purpose or inspiration, internal inspiration, right?
Yes. So it's a mindset.
It's a mindset. It's also a practice. Right, so you can't just be theoretical, bookish knowledge.
Yeah.
You need to practice it. And entrepreneurship, the main practice is of give to get. So give to get is, I mean, if you are of the mindset that I will make X amount of money by taking from the market and whatever, that typically has lesser chances of success. When you enter entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs are great deal makers. Why are they great deal makers? Because we give. We give first and then only we expect to take, right? So that give to get mentality, and for that you need to be a little bit more self-assured.
Yes.
Right?
So this comes when to a stage once they are in the process or middle of the journey of getting a success. So they should have possessed this. But in order to start their career as an entrepreneur, many people are 10 years back, maybe this word doesn't exist, but now it's a very common term. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. So you being a technical person you're from REC, National Institute of Technology, and you being engineer yourself, you're an entrepreneur. But I was not an engineer. I am from Bachelor's of Arts. Actually, I'm a journalist. I told you already. So I'm from NDTV. So my journey was a bit different. But how's your perspective on this? Because nobody can believe that I am an entrepreneur today.
Anybody can be an entrepreneur. A friend of mine has basically boiled down the root of this word called entrepreneur. It's actually a Sanskrit word. It comes from antar prerna, right? Antar prerna. Inside prayer. Inside inspiration. So antar prerna. Prerna.
Desire for something. Desire.
It's coming from inside, right?
Inside desire.
Yeah. So it's like purely driven by an internal desire, right? Internal aspiration or inspiration. Antar prerna, right?
Entrepreneur comes from
antar prerna, right?
Oh, interesting.
So antar prerna, right?
Okay.
So antar prerna is entrepreneur. The one who is driven by his own internal navigation and so on. He or she is not dependent on what other people are telling him or her, right? You are driven by you are self-driven, right? That is the antar prerna, entrepreneur. So anybody can be an entrepreneur, really, right? And India is a nation of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
We are because. So when does entrepreneurship thrive? When there is no government support, right? Because in India we never have social security or anything, right?
Sure.
For people like us, I mean, we have to fight at every stage, right?
Yes.
Especially, let's say I'm a Brahmin.
Yeah.
I had to. There was no reservation and so on. You had to fight through every part, right? I mean, and that is when your internal inspiration wakes up, right? And we have so many of these people in India. I mean, all of us are strivers, right? We strive, right? We hungry, striving, and we're also giving. We are not just like that Western take. I mean, it's like we're also giving because we want to be seen as liked and so on, right? I mean,
we want to make our own team. We want to give for our team,
and we want to build friendships. We want to build. So that we are a nation of entrepreneurs, and all you need is that awakening, right? The awakening which says that
Eureka.
yeah, and I am somebody, right? I have this vision. I have to achieve this. Once you know you want to achieve it, and you are a hardworking kind of a person, you will achieve it.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah.
So there is more of a philosophical take to this entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship is spirituality,
yes,
really.
actually it's spiritual.
Yeah.
And you need to practice. You need to practice it religiously, but it is like a spiritualism.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I love this take on entrepreneur.
Antarprerna.
Really, it's so interesting. So that's from Sanskrit.
Antarprerna.
Great. So now a little bit about Esamudaay.
Esamudaay. Okay, so about 8 years ago, I mean, I'd just finished 10 years of entrepreneurship, and we had raised 2 rounds of venture funding and big names, Sequoia Capital, IDG Ventures. I mean, ideally we should be feeling very happy. So me and my co-founder Vivek Subramaniam, we were not happy. We were like feeling, is this really what we wanted to do? We've raised 2 rounds of funding, we've got customers, we've expanded the business, and so on. Somehow we were not getting the right inspiration to carry on doing what we were doing. Right? So at that time we started thinking about how will the world be for our daughters. His daughter is 2 years older than mine. My daughter is 13 now, his is 16 maybe. How will the world be for our daughters when they are our age, right? So we were 40 something right back then, right? So, and we started thinking about different things, the socio-political, the financial system, the ecological, environmental system. How will work be? What kind of AI will be there, and automation will be there? How will the life be for our daughters when they are in their 40s? And every projection of the current trends we did, it led to disaster, right? Right? Every projection, right? Everything projected forward 30 years led to disaster, right? There was no good path out, right? So which is when we both decided that the right approach is to go back to the roots, right? I mean, you need to now think about how each individual can take care of his or her surroundings, right? Because today, self-sustainable kind of economies, which are more community-driven, more based on giving and getting, and it's more. It's not a market-driven society, but more a community sharing-based society, right? Because there are rich people, there are not so rich people, and all of that. But how can we move there, right? I mean, is the directional setting. And then we realize that the root cause of this problem that we are in is the fact that the person who's got the most power, or the institution that has the most power, is the furthest away from where the damage is being done.
Yes.
Right? So, and they have no clue, maybe they don't have any clue what damage is happening on the ground, because be it the financial system or the
exactly,
or the industrial system or the political system or the judicial system or the police system, the one who's getting affected the most by the policy is furthest away from the one who's making the policy. Right?
Yes.
So then we started searching for inspiration on what are the solution. And you know what? Our father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, he's written beautiful structures on how this can be solved, right? He had already identified this problem in 1946, and he's written a book called, he's written a lot of essays on something known as Gram Swaraj, which is based on this whole oceanic circles, the theory of oceanic circles. So pyramids are essentially the people at the bottom, all of us. Okay. We are the one who's creating value for the one at the top. And we are the ones, they have the most power, we have zero power, we have the at the bottom, even though we have a vote and everything, right? Versus he talked about oceanic circles, right? And I basically felt that as AI and everything is coming in, that model is the right model to bring up in the internet, right? The internet is the right model to adopt Gandhi's principles of, Gram Swaraj. And Esamudaay was born out of that, inspiration, saying if we are able to create digital wealth that is community led, now community, so if the company or the organization that is creating wealth is in the community, it is less likely to fuck around, right? I mean, it's less likely to create damage in the community.
Yes, because it involves a reputation.
And they're there.
Support,
They're also living there.
Yes. It would damage.
You can't externalize. I mean, how much can you externalize? Today, Jeff Bezos can externalize his decisions of the worker in India because he's not living in India.
Yes,
he's
you
living
don't care.
somewhere. So, how do you now bring that kind of entrepreneurship back, which is people call it social entrepreneurship. I just call it entrepreneurship, right? I mean, this is a problem to be solved. You're going to create wealth through it. The digital rollout in India needs to be done. Let's do it in a decentralized fashion, right?
Yes.
And that's Esamudaay. Right?
Exactly. So interesting. So for our better understanding for our viewers, is there any real story, real life incident of Esamudaay transformed a story? Is there any person, like anyone who got impact benefits of Esamudaay?
We are in the very early days, so we are now it's been 3 years now. So now what is happening is the infrastructure building, infrastructure both in the form of software, teams, operating procedures and all of that are being designed and rolled out. And there are stories, I'll come to that. But I also want to set the expectation that infrastructure building is happening. And we've got some early, kind of results from our pilot studies that we've done, right? Provided everything, it's essentially a way of life that once it rolls out, you should be able to create entrepreneurs on the ground who are potentially going to become self-employed like cable TV operators of the past, but more digital and more, let's say, new age to that extent, right? So the infrastructure building has happened. As of now, what we're telling entrepreneurs is, if you want to get started, especially people living in small towns, right? If you want to start a tech business, you have to go and hire a CTO and spend tons of money, or you need to get outsourced it to
freelancers.
And I've heard stories, people have spent anywhere from 5 lakhs to 30 lakhs to build apps, and you know how the story of those apps go.
They become serial entrepreneurs.
But most probably what happens is, they don't know tech. The tech that gets built becomes obsolete very quickly, and then it goes down the drain, right? People think that people on the ground think they can build tech by just hiring some tech person and building it, right? What we want to do is we want to make those people use tech off the shelf and use that tech to build their businesses, right? Without knowing how to code, right? Without knowing how to code, how can you start a tech business? So that we are seeing many examples of it. So we are seeing in Ballari, there's a guy called Zia that has started a business, set up, let's call it a local Swiggy, which does everything from delivering restaurant food to groceries to booking, tickets to certain things. I mean, it's a combination of all the digital services.
And Swiggy and Dunzo, everything.
Everything, right, in one.
Okay.
And he was able to do it with writing zero code, right? So that's the
you give platform for him.
For people like him to set up. There is a community of fishermen in Udipi, Malpe, that is creating a platform to compete with people like Licious, let's say, or even supply B2B to Licious and Captain Fresh and all of that, right? Because they know how to catch the fish. The core product is fish, right?
So, how efficient do you think Esamudaay is going to make an impact on? Of course, Swiggy is a good part. Fisherman, definitely, it's a huge community in India where very less awareness on tech or how to sell their products, because this is something which will get rotten very shortly, and a lot of things impact them, like weather or climate. If there is a cyclone, it's going to definitely impact them. So for them, it's very helpful. How about farmers? So can they also set up, any farmer can just set up e-commerce or marketplace for his products?
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that farmers should give up farming to set up e-commerce shops, right? Instead, what needs to happen is farmers should do what they're good at, or even artisans should do what they're good at, But just because they don't know how to code or don't know how to build, use digital solutions, their margin should not get taken away. Their power should not get taken away just because they don't know the digital tools, right? So what we're doing is we're creating a partnership between the farmer and a local aspiring digital entrepreneur, right? A local guy who's who's got energy, entrepreneur and everything. He's trained with the tools, given the do-it-yourself tools, the ability for him to configure the tools and onboard farmers, bakers, cobblers, whoever
in his community.
In his community, and provide them the digital services, right, over there, right? So, I mean, if that happens, if this guy is a service provider, not some VC-funded company in Bangalore, the bargaining power or the coordinating power between these two is still with this guy, right?
Yes.
Right, so he's not able to say, I mean, right now what's happening is the platforms are able to go and say, this is my agreement, take it or leave it, right? I mean, that's exactly
yes,
what,
exactly.
So
Black Big Basket or
everybody.
Anyone,
So they go to a vendor and say, this is my agreement, take it or leave it, right? And that's it. There's no negotiation, right?
They don't have enough options as well. Yeah.
So now the concept of open networks and Esamudaay, Esamudaay is part of the open networks rollout. We say that everybody should be able to participate in digital on their terms. On their terms. They they should say, hey, I'll give it to you, you can do this for me, I'll give you 2% or 3%.
So they cannot negotiate like 50 or 70%.
No, I mean, he says, and then it becomes, so the guy who's there, for him it's extra income, he'll just take it, he might take 5%, 7%, whatever is fair, right? And the bargaining power is more peer-to-peer rather than top-down, right?
Yeah.
So, which I think will just transform economy like nobody's business, right?
Definitely, because that's something which we need right now. That's
Absolutely.
something need of the hour. So still it's under development. So when will, when can anyone, I want to see real people actually making use of it.
Inshallah, October 2nd. So we launched our first beta on October 2nd, 2020, because the inspiration is Mahatma Gandhi and Gram Swaraj.
Okay.
We've called it Digital Swaraj, right?
Yeah.
So this October 2nd, if everything falls in place, because I also don't want to launch too early and so on, because infrastructure needs to be in place before we launch. We can't go out, we've done pilots and everything, we can't go out and launch and then fall flat, right? Because that I think is, I'm not in the mood to do it. I'm thinking 30 years hence, right? I mean, India has a developed economy, but developed not like US or America or Europe, but developed in the sense that we are a spiritual civilization that lives with earth, in harmony with earth, creating abundance not just for us, for all the species and so on, right? A more inclusive civilization. For that to happen, what I said, the Esamudaay way or the open network way should really become reality. And for that, I'm willing to wait, right? So, October 2nd, if everything goes well, touch wood, we'll launch Esamudaay.
Okay.
We call it the District Digital Economy Mission. We are calling people to become digital entrepreneurs or digital entrepreneur mentors for their district, right? I grew up in Udipi, right? I feel I have an obligation to Udipi, right? So I, mentor, entrepreneurs in Udipi. I invest in, Udipi because my mother lives there, my sister lives there, right? I've got a vested interest to do it. I believe there are many people like you and me that can play a small part in developing each one of our districts, right?
Yes.
And that's 750 to 800 districts.
Yes.
Each district is 30 to 60 lakh people, right? And if each one of that can become an engine of growth, our country is in another powerhouse.
Then even Udipi will become a hub.
We already call it Silicon Beach.
Yes, it will also start developing like will become better than Bangalore.
Totally. Yes. Look at the greenery there. We'll protect our environment. Yes. When we grow in Udipi, we'll protect our environment. We'll protect the cultural heritage of Udipi, the Yakshagana, the arts. Okay. It's not just about buying T-shirts and going to restaurants and everything. It's also about living mindfully with our society, right? Yeah. So arts is a big part of it. How can we develop culture? How can culture go along with technology, right? because that's it, right? I mean, dance, music, art of all forms. How can we develop all of it together, not just IT
just
or
selling, not just buying and selling products.
Yeah.
So with that vision, this is a very incredible vision.
I told you I take on only big problems.
Yes, exactly. So this is something which bugs me a lot. Even while I was walking, you cycled for this interview, I walked for this interview. So while on my way walk, I was just keep thinking, at least once in a month I want to do some kind of layman's job. Could be lifting at some mandi. I want to be doing that job, or selling goods, or at least delivering goods in Swiggy. I want to do some layman job in order to understand what exactly is the emotion, what is how much percentage of their revenue, or how do they manage their economy, what is their economy. I want to be in their shoes.
You will only learn when you live in their shoes.
Yes. Right? So I was actually thinking of this while I was walking to the office. Unfortunately, we are having a conversation on that specifically. That's
wonderful, Sarvana, and I think I just want to go further into that thought, right? It comes from empathy and this whole thing about let's call you an entrepreneur. That also, I mean, entrepreneurs don't just want to become rich. Yes, we all want to become rich. That's why we are out in here, right? Yeah. Rich is not just in your bank balance, but is also in your love you get from your social connections, right? So and that is wealth, real wealth, right? I mean, that you get out of that joy that you get. And if you really want to create value, you want to understand, you want to look at the world from other people's eyes, right? So for that, you need to live their lives.
I want to live a specific, not just a month, at least a week. I always keep telling my wife I want to do internship at a loadman, as a loadman. I want to do 1 week internship.
Well, my friend, one of my batchmate, he's quit, I mean, he's doing a sabbatical or whatever. He's now joined a garage. I mean, he's learning to be a mechanic. He wants to learn. He wants to actually fix things with his hands. Right? Both became mechanical engineers. And he is now. I mean, he goes to work every day to the garage in Shivaji Nagar and. Doesn't get paid because the owner there.
it's basically like an internship, right? That's something thoughtful, very thoughtful. So luckily you were addressing the same thing, because this is something which bugs me a lot. How am I supposed to make a product, or how am I supposed to make a solution when I don't even feel the actual problems of the people?
Go out there, and I think it's wonderful that you're thinking in that direction. Kudos, and let's go together someday.
Definitely, for sure. That's been one of my bucket list. I don't know, not fancy things. This is a very interesting bucket list for me.
Absolutely.
Talking of bucket list, you being very senior entrepreneur, of course I have to learn a lot from you because I'm very young. What was your bucket list? How many fulfilled bucket list you have with you?
I think bucket list is not a good idea, right? Because frankly, you may die today. So, and I hate the fact that you will die unfulfilled, right? So if you live a life which is every day is a fulfilling expedition in the journey that is called life, then every day you'll get such great experiences that no bucket list can compete, I'm telling you, right? Because this is just living life fully, right? Anytime. I mean, it's and the vision is you're trying to do something big, you're trying to change the world, if insofar as at least your world you're trying to do. So bucket lists I've never maintained per se, but I generally like to travel a lot, both internally and doing weird things. I mean, going off the grid more or less. I mean, that I've been doing all the time, including when I was a consultant, I would just take off and go to the mountains by myself, spend time, talk to people. So that I continue to do. So it doesn't need to be in a bucket list. I don't feel like buying anything, so that is not there. So more or less right now I'm. While going back, I get hit by a bus, I'm fine.
Great. So I want to ask a few things about skills. What do you think of course, we talk about a lot of mindset. I think we have a very good rapport, gel, and similar path towards the mindset of an entrepreneur. But I want to know about the skill set, because that's where things get real challenge. To become an entrepreneur, or to become a professional, to become a successful person, you should have a specific skill set, like a base skills. It could be programming, it could be photography, it could be driving, so it could be fixing mechanical things. What do you think is the ideal skill set for an entrepreneur?
For an entrepreneur, right? First, let's divide the hard skills from the soft skills.
Yes.
Right? Hard skills, I think, can be acquired, like my friend is acquiring the mechanic skill. I mean, it can be acquired, and in my case, if you can call it a hard skill, it is the skill of engineering money, right? Fintech, right?
Yeah.
So engineering money is my skill, right? And experience or whatever, right? Knowledge particularly, right? But the most important thing, that I think you will find many professionals, right? You can hire them as well. But the most important thing is the people, right? How are you with other people, right? How do other people connect with you, right? And how do you continue to maintain not always friendly relationships, but authentic relationships, right? Is the key strength of an entrepreneur, right? The ability to go to somebody and honestly say I fucked up, right? I mean, and then be able to build further from there, being honest and being authentic.
Truthful so to yourself and your team.
Mostly, it is all about how you are interacting with your people, right? Because entrepreneurship is all about your connections, right?
Yeah.
Network.
Yes.
Right? So yeah.
Since you pointed out being honest and truthful, I think this is a very good time of human race, what we are living at. We believe each other extensively.
No.
Really? No?
It's exactly the opposite.
We are not believing each other?
We pretend like we believe each other.
But that's what's happening, right? That's where
on social media.
No, not on social media. Let's say the businesses grows, the investors invest. They see the projections, numbers. They communicate. Of course, what I believe is we communicated a couple of days ago. You believed in me. I told this is my first podcast. You haven't met me.
There is serendipity happening for sure, right?
There is some faith.
There is, but we are living at a time in human history where it's the most darkened of times, right? Where there is less joy, there is less trust, there is more aggression and pent up frustrations and all of that. Across the world, right? I mean, it is primarily because of this hunger that we have driven within ourselves for more and more and more and more. The consumerist. I mean, I don't like to put the isms on it, but in general, because of this, we are living in that time period where humankind, while we are technologically moving really fast, spiritually and other means, I think we are far behind. In between all this, there is these kind of movements that happen, right? Where you reach out to me, we speak, we connect, and we have these conversations. That also is happening. But primarily, when you walk down these streets and go anywhere, you will get a general sense of confusion. You will get a general sense of despair, pretty much, right? Deep down, right? People are putting up a brave front, taking loans and doing whatnot, but deep down there is a great vulnerability right now in society.
Is that because we have become very segregated, we have been alien, because we have been migrating a lot than before, because right now everyone is segregated from their roots. You're from Udipi, I'm from Madurai, so you are living in different parts of the world from where we came or grew up from. Is that the reason why we are having that inner fear? That
obviously the changes that happened to society as part of industrialism and colonialism and all of that definitely has a role to play, and the education system that they brought in has definitely a role to play. But I think primarily it comes down to we've been put on a race, right? without us knowing that we are in a race. I mean, if you really want to be successful, you want to not run a race, right?
It's a marathon.
You want to just be. I mean, you want to drive yourself. You don't want to be thrown into a race that you're not in, right? And that race today seems to be all about money, right? I mean, this entire thing is about money, right? And that so all that has happened is there is a power which sits in US, let's say, or wherever, right? US dollar, the economy. They have a factory, and that factory is producing US dollars, right? I mean, when anybody creates a factory, you want to generate demand for that product they're making, right?
Yeah.
So now we are all creating demand for that product, which is US dollars, and they have the only factory for it. So they keep churning out these product, which is US dollars, and all of us are chasing money, which in the end is, and everybody, right? We are externalizing our joy. We are saying that our joy will come when we have 1 crore in your bank account. That is creating demand for the US dollar factory. And we are all in that mode, right? So if we just step back and say, what brings us real joy? Is it our bank account? Is it something else, right? Bank account, yes, you need to be able to pay, I mean, all of that. But I think that's where we are. We are in this race we don't see, and we feel confused and frustrated when we don't meet our goals. And then random things happening like, layoffs and so on. There's people... Because when people attach, some aspiration towards a future thing, it doesn't happen. Imagine the loss they feel, right? That sadness and so on. And we are right now in India. We might be saying that we are a great economy and startup is booming and all that. But really, there is so much pain in this in this the same startup ecosystem. I mean, Byju's or wherever, right?
Yes.
I mean, they're like. So I mean, and we the minute we start treating people like tools, right? I mean, so that we can just swipe away when we want, we don't want. I mean, that I think is, I've done that. I've been in the startup industry.
Yes.
But that I think is where we are right now. I think we need to slow down and.
I have a couple of questions from what you just said. First, I'll quickly go to Byju's thing. So Byju at 2020 was the highest valued
it
startup.
Still is. They've not reduced it yet.
Yes, it's highly valued startup and pulling in a ton of investment. But the issue where Byju failed is the governance and the morality of how they manage their customers, like manage their funds.
No. That's come up now, right? Governance is something which is in times when companies are doing well. Nobody will even talk about governance, right? There's a fundamental flaw in this entire edtech thing, right? Yours is solving a real problem, right? Which is the arbitrage problem, right?
Yes.
So you are, net, you are like an IT services, old style, like IT services, and you're solving a real problem, supply problem in the US, right? Byju's is essentially taking a flawed educational system. The educational system that you and I went through is preparing us to be factory workers and bureaucrats, right?
Yes.
I mean, they want us to be punctual. They want us to be memorizing good things and be obedient, right? Our education system is about obedience and about punctuality and ability to churn out, right? Byju's is building tech for the flawed educational system, right? I mean, that rat race that is building out. Instead, use tech and AI to liberate people from this rat race, right?
Yes.
You use AI and so on to liberate. You have to now learn on demand, right? We need to be able to learn contextually. We need to be able to learn when there is, and experientially, all of that, right? And tech can play a big role in it, right? Today's EdTech is replicating the flawed industrial educational system with technology, right? They're just making the machine better with technology.
They're just taking it to your pockets.
Yeah.
The learning system to your pockets.
Yeah, that's it, and making you lazier. And
sitting at home.
And you're still feeding that examination-based educational system, right? What good is you crack an exam by cramming for it and doing all kinds of subject matter. You are I'm a mechanical engineer. I don't remember anything. Now I've relearned I mean, relearning, thermodynamics and other things because of my interest now. But back in the day, all you wanted to do is get that exam cleared, get that mark, and move on, right?
Yes.
And so then I feel there is a flaw in the edtech industry,
Yes.
and no amount of money is going to solve that flaw.
Yes. So my second question was about our education system. Since you pointed out in our previous conversation, said our education system. What do you think about our education system? How it badly needs to be changed? I feel it badly needs to be changed because now the educational cost is increasing.
Yeah.
But extremely increasing.
Yeah.
Because I learned with close to 10,000 a year for my high school.
Yeah.
Now 2 lakh, 3 lakh for a kindergarten.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why we need to pay lakhs and lakhs for children's education where nothing has been changed. Books syllabus is almost the same.
It's become worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's becoming very
they're not even they're not teaching Einstein even now in school, man. I mean, they're still teaching Newton.
Mm-hmm.
That's how outdated we are, right? We are not teaching relativity or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We are still reading mechanics the way it was taught. See, I mean, and cutting edge of science is moving so rapidly, right?
Exactly.
So we are not keeping track, right?
Most of the things what we learn in high school,
Yeah.
AI or ChatGPT or something else can fix it in seconds, and it have no value actually. Maybe it is deep down to process certain information. If you have the skill, it's okay, but still we are fighting to or struggling to learn a certain skill set.
Absolutely.
Which have no practical impact right now.
And if I really want to pick up the skill set, and if I've got the purpose, I will pick it up in 2 weeks if I'm given the right tools to learn it.
Exactly.
Right? Human beings have that capability,
Yes.
really, right? So I'm going back to the educational system. The root of the education system that we put through, which is kindergarten, 10 years, and high school, and then college and all that, was set up by the British. To prepare the upper class Indians or people who they thought were good enough to be part of their society, to prepare them for jobs that they were creating, right? Be it in their police, their bureaucracy, lawyers, the factories, the railways, and all that, right? The key factors of this industrial education, which is not just in India but across the world, is about punctuality, right? I mean, because for a factory, punctuality is key,
Schools,
right?
Yeah, school maintain punctuality.
Yeah, so the bell and the all that.
Yeah.
Punctuality, standardization, standardized testing, standardized everything. So you are becoming trained to look for standardization, right? So you are standardization and obedience, right? In general, obedience, and therefore kids who are a little naughty and so on got a trashing during my time, right?
Yes.
We were
Yes.
so these are the three things, because you wanted to prepare human beings for a factory lifestyle, standardized pyramidical lifestyle, where there is the elitist, the colonials, and then the next level hierarchy ladder, right? That's not right at all, right? I mean, we don't want to live like that. Who wants to live this rat race? We are not, I mean, I am a human being. Don't treat me like a fucking robot, right? I mean, don't train me like a robot, right?
Yeah.
I want to be able to express myself, understand with my hands, get experiential learning, develop my social skills, develop creativity, critical thinking. Critical thinking is something that the current education system
doesn't address.
They not just address, they curb it, right? Because I mean, you try criticizing your teachers in
Then you are out of the school or you are being punished.
yeah, critical thinking and all that, and all of that doesn't exist. And now they are coming up with their own educational system, which is the whole international schooling, for which we are paying more.
Exactly. It's just international by name. But imagine, because my co-founders are Japanese.
Yeah.
They live with me. We are all living together, and we are running this business for past few years. In Japanese schools, kids clean their toilets, right? Imagine in Indian school,
Japan. Yeah.
in any Indian school, say from now kids have to clean the toilet.
Yeah.
what will happen? The school will be closed, or they will make the school get closed.
Parents will be like,
yes, am I spending lakhs of money for my child to get clean the toilet? But that's something what you need. The basic. These are something basic.
So
right?
there are. So the education system needs to become more apprentice based, apprenticeship based, and learn different things. So there is a school called the Valley School set up by Jiddu Krishnamurthy, which those formulae are great. I mean, which is where some of these are. But these are few and far between. The rest of us are in the factory system of creating robots, right? And that's the education system of today.
Because it's not just, it's funny, but don't you think it's dangerous? Because we are training them to be something, but that something will be replaced by algorithms, right? In a couple of seconds it can do it. Then why should I spend, why the companies might think, why should I spend money on an individual and give him all the benefits which can be replaced by a machine or algorithm which can do things in seconds and which will save a lot of cost for the organization? How do you think? Isn't it dangerous? We are leading our generation to something.
No, so it depends on what you think humans are expected to do on this planet, right? I think humans are great, right? So contrary to the current prevalent educated woke class thinking that where they hate humans. Humans are the worst species on this planet. We are out here to destroy the planet and vagera vagera and all that. I'm saying humans are great. We are lovely. I love humans, right? That's the whole part of it. We are so quirky. We are so we've got all those different personality flaws and so on, and so much fun being with others. So humans are meant to, take this. The human race is supposed to, in my view at least, supposed to realize the connection between this planet and other planets and other stars in the universe, right? And there is an existing connection. We can't just feel it yet, right? There is this universal intelligence that is embedded in this akasha, space, right? Yeah. So akasha, that is the ether that is there. Humans, we have the instrumentation because of our cerebral cortex, the frontal cortex. We have the ability to imagine. Right? The imagination is how the reality is created. Right? Today's imagination is tomorrow's reality. Right? All reality comes out of somebody's imagination, right? Like the iPhone and so on, right? So we have that ability. We can dream up beautiful things, and we can also live in harmony with Earth, right? Today, we don't do that. We just need to settle down a little bit, discover our spiritual selves, discover the fun side of us, not the cruel side of us, which is where we are going out and cutting trees and killing animals. And I eat meat, but don't blame me for that. But that's my food.
Not for joy.
Yeah. So in general, I think once we realize that we are a special species, but we are not outside of this earth, right? We are part of Earth's intelligence. So think of us as the brain of Earth, or we are like the neural circuitry of Earth. Earth has got a super intelligence. And this existed, and even in the Puranas and everything, we talk about this, right? Ma Bhumi, Ma Bhumi is a special thing. She is a living goddess.
Yeah, even right? In West they say Gaia.
Now, right? But there is the scientific theory of the West treats the Earth as a dead thing, like a rock, right? We call, at least the imagination in the West is Earth is a rock and we are on it, right? So as a dead thing, right? Dead place. But no, Earth is a living super intelligence that we are all part of, right? And the minute you discover your connection with Earth, life becomes completely different. And we can, so the future in general, AI, can become our ability to extend our spiritual pursuits, right? So imagine if I can give all my mundane jobs to my AI friend, right? There's a lot of mundane jobs I do, and I do the things that I am good at, which is connecting with other humans, imagining new things. AI can't imagine new things.
Yes.
Right?
It's still not yet.
It can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, because you need this circuitry, right? I mean, the
Cerebrum.
to come up. No, the prefrontal cortex, which is looking forward in time, right? You can do prediction based on the past, but you can't think of new things, right? So some of that. So all the mundane things the AI can manage, and leave me free to do what I am supposed to be doing, right? Like talking to you,
Yes.
doing podcasts,
Yes.
and dreaming up new ideas and
Yes.
forming, new ways of thinking.
Yes. So my question was since most of the mundane jobs we should give to AI, or we will be giving to AI, but at school or the educational system majorly focus on or training the resource, or training the people or kids or students towards more. They spend a lot of efforts or practicing or training to do these mundane jobs.
So
right?
we are going through a transition period
Yes.
right now. So it's
This
actually,
transition is rapid because it's impacting the industry very quickly.
however rapid it is going to take one generation.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean our generation is like the transitionary generation.
Yes.
Right? So not everybody. We can't shut down all the schools today.
Immediately.
Right? We can't change the curriculum in the schools today. It typically takes 5, 10, 12, 15 years to do it. At least the government of India has realized that something is wrong, and they've come up with that new education policy, NEP, which broadly lays emphasis on some of the aspects we talked about, which is experiential learning and on skills-based sort of a training, rather than purely curriculum-based and rote learning and so on. So more hands-on, if you will. All of this will take time to roll out, because we are also, as a civilization, confused about what the future is going to look like, right? And there are clearly so much confusing narratives going on. One is climate change is going to kill us all. What's the point of doing anything? Anyway, we're going to die. I'm saying, no, guys, come on. You can't give up like that, right? So that's one big narrative that is playing out. Everybody's saying that, right? I mean, so it kind of puts you out of that need to act, right? Anyway, we're all going to die, so we may as well party, right? I mean, that's one approach. The other approach is completely anti everything, right? I mean, that which is also not useful. I mean, we need to think about how do we slowly start transitioning out? How do we start building new narratives and new ways of thinking about the future? And if today all human beings go back into lockdown, the earth will be back, right? It happened once.
It happened, yeah.
It happened once. Birds are back. Everything. And give it. So, but we don't need to go as deep into lockdown. Let's cycle more, right? Let's walk more. Let's run more. Let's use our muscles and our. That's what makes us work, right? I mean. Let's not give up flying and everything, but let's be a little bit more connected with Earth, and so let's not be in this race all the time. Well, it's not fun. I mean, is anybody having fun with this race? I mean, let's be a little bit more mindful about what gives you joy, and things will fall in place.
Interesting. So we have been talking about entrepreneurship, skill set, artificial intelligence. And that is a different phase for you as well. You are an investor, so how? Let's talk a little bit about your investment journeys.
Sure.
As an investor, yeah.
So I've been investing in this vision of decentralization of the internet, right? So the internet essentially is a network of computers that work on protocols. Today, those computers and those protocols are controlled by large corporations, leaving very little on the ground for decentralized organizing and alternate ways of being, right? Decentralized approaches. So I've been investing primarily in democratization technologies, right? I mean, technologies that are currently powering the largest enterprises, be it the largest enterprise systems, the methodologies and so on, that have created the large enterprises, the MNCs, right? how can the same technologies or better technologies power the MSMEs and the mom and pops and so on, right? Because finally competition is at a technology level, right? So how can you democratize technology and make a network of smalls be able to compete with the largest of the large, right? Be it Google or Walmart or whoever, there should be a network equivalent that we can compete or be on the equal keel with, right? Is the broad thought. So I've invested in a few companies around this theme. The first company I invested in is a company called Trillbit, which is a Boston-based company. They are working on converting your mobile phones into a secure authentication device for smart networks, right? So basically, with that technology, what you can do is you can now create private communications in near field, right?
Without a GSM, without the...
Yeah, you can without a GSM also. It uses sound, like how we are talking. It uses sound to do it. GSM and...
Setting in specific frequencies?
So specific, it's on the ultrasound frequency. It's data encoding on the ultrasound frequency, which then creates an encoded communication, which we can then use other channels to communicate. Once you've found our handles, we can, it's basically a handshake mechanism.
Yeah.
So now they've also been instrumental in pushing for passwordless ecosystem, because every time passwords come in, so now your device becomes device has got something known as a device ID. I mean, it's a
key. It's basically becoming a key.
Yeah. So every device and all the device manufacturers have agreed on that concept. So they become the handshake mechanism for this passwordless ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So this I invested in 2017 when they were still planning to build a protocol for data exchange using ultrasound, right? So they were just planning to build it. Now today, after 6 years or 5 years, 6 years, they are the world's fastest data exchange using ultrasound. Right? So I'm that kind of an investor.
Yeah,
I mean, I've done other things as well. I mean, similar, including Google-less Android and things like that. These are all still so because all Android phones in India are sending data to Google, right?
Yeah.
For what, right? I mean, what's the point? Why do they deserve to get that data, right? For what joy? That data belongs to the user, and if at all.
Platform.
Yeah. So I mean, just because they sold Android, and they made money when they sold you Android also, and they're getting the data for free, right? So that I think is some of those are things that I'm working on, and I can. It's an investing philosophy. It might not work at all, but like I said, I'm working in that long horizon, and when you look at that long horizon, if at all we need to see a forward path, we need to decentralize. Right? If we want to see a sustainable future, we have to decentralize. We have to give autonomy to people to take the right choices, and we have to have the regulatory oversight to be able to, kind of make them choose the right things, right? I mean, at least give them the right frameworks to choose, right? Decentralization is not chaos. It has to be regulated, right? It should be a regulated environment.
Yeah.
And Gram Swaraj, I mean, you can't live in a village if you're behaving like an idiot, right?
Yes.
They'll throw you out.
Yes.
So you need to have something like that.
Interesting. So my follow-up question with your investment experience. So a lot of startups, or let's imagine two friends, or they come up with some incredible idea. So they put into use. They used whatever the savings or whatever the fund they raised, bootstrap themselves, marketed it to the very, very small segment, and it works. And that is a good response for a specific service or a product. So how do they take to the next level? Because of course there are venture capitals, investors, but two individuals for some young boys could be seeing it, or girls could be seeing it, or just out of college, they have a brilliant idea, they want to invest with a couple of lakhs with their savings or from bank. So how do they take it to the next level? Yeah.
First is don't start. I mean, I would recommend, right? Don't start till you have your supporters, right? See, I mean, the idea itself can get cooked up sufficiently, right? While you do other income generating activities, right? There is no harm in working on your hustle while you are earning an income as well, right? So because I feel you have to think long term, right? So if you quit everything and you start working on this, enamored by this idea, you kind of get sucked into it, and then it's you against the world. And if you don't meet the right people at the right time, then even a good idea will fail.
Yeah.
So if you really believe in this idea, you think about the idea in the long term and be committed to being there. So don't leave everything and start working on it first, right? You build POCs, pilots, talk to people about it, spread the word, gain supporters and so on. Once you have that clarity of continuity, then only you get started, because you should know clearly to take your idea to completion, there will be investment that will be needed, right? Unless you're super lucky, right? Which is any tech-based business. Is creating intellectual property, right? Intellectual property takes time and money to create,
yes,
right?
For development,
marketing and so on. So if you want to create intellectual property, and any business that is not creating intellectual property is not a tech business, right? What is the point of having a tech business if you don't have intellectual property or something which is a key brand value of your
service?
So you need to now create enough financial muscle to be able to reach that point where your IP is going to generate revenues on its own, right? Well, that is where royalties and other things, or license revenue and revenue flows come in. Right? So I know all of us will be enamored by your idea, but unless the market has already taken off and you're going to lose the race and you have to get started, don't start till you have got the validation, you've got a supporter base, talk to more people, and then only start, right? I feel the last 12 years we've been distorted, right? Everybody thought they could just build a PPT, build one POC, spend 5-6 lakhs, go to venture capitalists or angel funds, angel investors, and they'll get the next 25-30 lakhs, and then they'll it doesn't work that way, right? So I feel go more organic. Go more organic. Take things slowly. I mean, if these are young people, age is on your side. Don't be in a hurry to give up everything and start up right now. I mean, get some experience, develop your idea on the side, and it'll take off. If you've done a good job telling other people about your idea, it'll take off on its own.
Okay. Next, we will go with some of the questions I have. It's more like a rapid fire. Like, I'll start from very simple things. So, what's your favorite part of India?
Udipi, man. Goa, Udipi. Yeah, Goa. Let's go with Goa.
Goa.
Yeah.
Great. So, Bollywood or cricket?
Cricket.
Yeah. So, who's your favorite cricketer?
Sehwag.
Mine too. Yeah, I'm a real childhood fan of Sehwag because many people say I look like Sehwag. When I was a child, I used to be even now, but back then I was very chubby and scout. Yeah.
I have this thing to everybody. Be like Sehwag.
Yeah.
294, you go for a sixer.
Right? Yeah. So, North Indian or South Indian cuisine?
South Indian.
Yeah. What's your go-to street food?
Street food. Okay, I mean, in Bangalore it used to be Fanus, but not anymore. It's too heavy. Bombay, Vada Pav.
Yeah. Okay. Who's your favorite historical figure and who inspired you? I know the answer, but...
Mr. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi,
okay.
aka Mahatma Gandhi. So, I mean, there are many flaws in the human being, which I think is, which is part of the allure for me. I mean, many flaws. But primarily, I think to be that self-assured, to walk around in a kacha and go to England and talk his thing and be in his own zone, doing his own thing for years and years and years, right? I mean, 1909 till 1947, our man did the same thing day in, day out, right? And didn't get phased out. And he had a vision, right? I mean, 38 years, he just did that, right? I mean, and he achieved, I mean, for maybe not fully his
Interesting.
Success, but yeah, the tenacity of the dude is just amazing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
Plus, I borrowed some ideas from him, so I have to give him credit.
Interesting. What's your favorite regional language in India?
Favorite? Tulu, Konkani. Konkani is my mother tongue, so.
Favorite mode of transportation? Even
Cycling.
I know the
Cycling.
answer. I know the answer.
Cycling.
Okay. You said historical personality Mahatma Gandhi. So how about the current personalities who inspire you for any reason? Current, living. Yeah.
This won't be rapid fire. I need to think right now. See, I mean, people will mistake me if I say Narendra Modi. He's definitely inspiring. I mean, again, for the same reasons as the other Gujarati I talked about. Our man is on a mission, and he like so steadfastly towards it. Karta rehta hai. I mean, apna Prime Minister. So yeah, I mean, Esamudaay, for example. I was sitting on the idea to start. Right, this is lockdown 2020. So March, April, I was sure that I wanted to start now because deglobalization was happening because of COVID. I would be stupid if I didn't start then, right? But I was also, thinking, should I start now, paisa, all that. And then Narendra Modi talked about Atmanirbhar Bharat. So on within a week, he released 2 hashtags, Atmanirbhar Bharat and Vocal for Local, both of which were exactly what I was doing with Esamudaay. So I said, okay, boss bol raha hai to karenge abhi. So Narendra Modi, let's say.
Okay, the current inspiring personality, interesting. So industries, how do you think purely digital tech industry, or this is again rapid fire, or manufacturing product based industry? What do you prefer? Industry
4.0 is together.
So you
tech,
look
it's
future.
It's together. So there is all industry is tech, fin, and some manufacturing and some actual commerce and everything. So you can't be separated. It's all one now. Yeah.
Yes. Any favorite outside India destination, like a country or
America?
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I love America.
Okay. So that was the rapid fire questions. And any closing thoughts for our podcast, because we are about to end the podcast because we are nearing the end. I think I ran out of all the questions you have answered.
Thank you so much,
very patiently. But I want your ending thoughts.
So the thoughts in general are, I think more people should have podcasts, and you should have more and more episodes of developing conversations around what the future is going to look like, and how technology, especially AI, is going to change lifestyles. People take AI as ChatGPT and mundane things like that, but it is absolutely going to change everything, and it's going to happen in a very short period of time. Between now and 2030, life will be completely different. So I hope more people will do the podcast because you do more, because that's what more people need to understand and internalize, right?
Yeah, because they need to have the awareness of what's happening around them. Yeah.
And they need to drop everything and take a deep look at what they can do with this, right? How they can use it to their advantage. If they don't do it, somebody else is going to take advantage of it and use them as fodder into this whole AI system. It sounds harsh, but yeah, that I think is exactly what people need to do. So,
okay, I think we came to the end of the podcast.
thank you.
Thank you so much.